Mr. Hughes, return from hell, Mr. Hughes.
People, just like I told you, Sport Pocket, last time I was here is to get that gold around my waist. Anybody, if you got that gold, guess what? Total Protection is coming after you.
Hello, folks. Total Protection, Mr. Hughes here for another episode of the Total Protection, Mr. Hughes podcast, episode number 7. My co-host, the ATLien, alongside me. What's cracking, AT?
What's going on, Mr. Hughes? Back again?
No doubt about it. Last time we was on, we had the sensational, beautiful Kiera Hogan, Girl on Fire, with us, and we got some information from her that I think the fans did enjoy. Our guest today, later on down the line, will be Chad Skywalker. Very talented young man, has a bright future in professional wrestling. We wanted to get the genesis of his career and what his ambitions are and how he got started in the business and what made him want to be a professional wrestler. But with that said, we're going to get to him later on down the line. But today's subject, AT, I've been wanting to talk about this for quite some time, and it's pertaining to wrestling commissions. I mean, they're all over the place. They got them in Missouri, they got them in Colorado, they got them in Connecticut, they got them in South Carolina, they got them in Florida, they got them in Louisiana, they got them in Missouri, Kentucky. They got them all over the place, and people don't talk about it, but I wanted to talk about these commissions and let folks know how I feel about them. Are you familiar with the commissions, AT?
Yes, Mr. Hughes. I believe you had us on. Had us booked in Alabama, and the guy was trying to harass us for our IDs and make us sign them, but you kept kayfabing him, and he never got our information.
Well, it's like this. I've been doing this stuff over 30 years, odd years, and the reason I believe that these wrestling so-called commissions popped up is because so they can make some money. Now, the reason why WWE, former WWF, changed it to wrestling entertainment is so they didn't have to pay all those fees under the commission rules. Like boxing, you have to have a license, you have to get a physical, you have to get blood work, you have to get all that done before you can perform. And if you don't get that, on top of them charging you a fee, okay. Now I done been all over this country multiple times, and I've had bookings in most of the states that I stayed in. Kentucky especially. I got a call from a promoter the other day, wanted to know if I wanted to do a show for him in Kentucky. And I already knew that they have a wrestling commission and you have to have a license. And as a professional wrestler, superstar, folks, I put that on the promoter to take care of that license. Now, if you a promoter and you call Mr. Hughes and you're in a commissioned state and you want to use Total Protection, Mr. Hughes, I am not going to buy no license because I'm not going to be there probably once a year. Okay? So it's not really worth the money to even apply to get a freaking wrestling license because the money pretty much goes into the guy that's getting the money on the commission's pocket. And so, this commission thing, I think is a freaking racket. What do you think about that, AT?
Mr. Hughes, I think that it is something like a money grab because in the world of, sports entertainment like we are in, it is just that, it's sports entertainment. So I don't think we should have commissions at all.
Well, here's the thing, especially like myself, I train students, I train thousands and thousands of young men and women in the world of professional wrestling, and some of them haven't experienced the commission, that unless I get them on the show or something like that, and I have to explain to them, depending on how many times that they're going to be going to that particular state, to wrestle, if it's worth getting a license. Now, usually if I have my students with me, I'll have the promoter pay for all of our license. I don't care if it's one or two guys that I have with me. So there's 3 people he's going to have to pay for. Now, depending on how bad he wants to use Mr. Hughes, he's going to have to pay for those licenses if he wants me to come, because I am not going to pay for no wrestling license, and I already know I'm going to be there just probably once in a year's time, and probably be once in a lifetime. You never know, folks. You know, you spend, I say they usually run between 45, 50 bucks for a wrestling license, and you probably use that wrestling license just that night, and after that, you don't need it no more. So with these commissions, man, I just feel that you know, they need to drop wrestling off from the commission. They got boxing, of course. Boxing is a little more, you know, tougher than wrestling. MMA, of course, same thing. But since, you know, all these sports jumping in, the commission, they got more money to dig out of people's pockets.
Exactly, Hughes. So I've had 2 MMA fights, and it was like $90 for the blood work and the eye work, and yes, it was that much. And then on addition to that, after we had weighed in and we had proved that we was ready to fight, we had to pay like an additional $25 for our fighting license, which was provided by the venue, but we had to pay the upfront $25 fee, and it would be returned to us. But don't you think that, so the whole purpose of it is to make sure that you are properly taken care of if you get hurt? Wouldn't that like help the boys out more often if we was to go out there and say get injured in the ring?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, like for example, in Louisiana, in Kansas, in Missouri, they have a ambulance there at the building. Okay, they have an ambulance there. It's required by the commission that a ambulance has to be on scene at all times. Now, say for example, something happens, and you have to use an ambulance to go emergency room or something like that. That particular ambulance cannot leave. They have to call another ambulance to come get you to take you to the hospital. And which I don't understand is because, okay, you got someone there that's supposed to be taking care of you, but if you have to get a ride somewhere, you got to wait until the other ride comes and gets you because the ambulance that's already on duty cannot leave. And of course, you know, how often do you need medical assistance at a professional wrestling show? These guys get paid all this money to sit there and watch wrestling free. On top of that, getting paid really good, okay, by the promotion, okay? And here, 9 times out of 10, they're never used. How often have you seen, AT, that someone needs an ambulance at a show?
Well, the last time we was in West Virginia, the dude, he passed out after the in between the match, and they had to call the ambulance for him.
Well, the deal with him is he shouldn't have been in no wrestling show, period. Because some guys book people on shows, but they don't really know the medical history. They don't, you know, I ain't never seen this person. I don't know who the heck it was. It was just some street guy that they wanted to put on the show to, you know, make him happy for whatever. They booked him on the show, and he really didn't do anything. He just pretty much chokeslammed somebody out there and then passed out.
Yeah, that's why he was on the outside of the ring. He was managing one of the other guys, and I guess they had a spot with him in the ring doing a choke slam. He gets out of the ring, and I guess he just fainted.
Well, you know, like I said, he must have had some medical issues before all that, okay, and that's probably the most action he has had as far as physical in a long time. And so, you know, he probably, you know, blood rushed to his head and he fell out. But the whole thing is commissions, man. I think they're all a bunch of thieves and rackets. They take people's money. They you know, you have to get all this blood work, like you were talking, and you know, get a physical, and then tell them all your business. You know, which supposed to be kind of confidential, in my opinion, because if you're going to get in that ring, you should already be a healthy person, first of all. So the commission shouldn't have to know what ailment you got lurking in your body, that's nobody's business. You understand? And so with I think the commissions, man, they just popped up trying to get money off of people because they thought they can get some off of WWF for a long time. They changed it to Wrestling Entertainment. That simmered down a little bit. And, of course, they tried to do it in Atlanta, Georgia a few years back. They had this commission tried to pop up and start the license thing here in Atlanta, Georgia. But a bunch of us wrestlers and promoters in the state of Georgia went downtown, and we all came with their force of people talking to them, letting our voices be heard, that we did not want a commission here in Atlanta, Georgia, that the professional wrestling game is not like boxing or MMA. Guys, are in there trying to protect one another, be safe, instead of trying to knock each other's teeth out and break each other's nose and so forth and so on. And so with that said, the main person that was holding the meeting with the rest of the board downtown weighed in on what everyone had to say. I mean, I got up and said some things. There was a few other stars there that got up and spoke their mind about how bad it is to have a commission, because it can hurt the business. Now, at the time, WWA4 was still around, and I was the trainer there, and Frank was the owner, Frank Aldrich, and he came to the commission meeting too, and he stood up and he just pretty much said, if you guys have a wrestling commission here in Georgia, it's going to hurt my business. And a lot of students come to Georgia because they don't have to buy no license. They don't have to have all this nonsense going on where they had to spend all this money for physicals and blood work and the whole 9 yards. And so, everybody got up, said a few things, what was on their minds about it, and lo and behold, they decided to back out.
Okay, Hughes. So with this whole little spiel that you just went on, I just got so many questions and answers that I need answered from you, or your take on it. So, with the guy that we were just talking about that passed out in the ring, would you saying that he shouldn't have been in there? If the committee and the commissions and getting a license is done properly through all these podcasts, all of the other 6 podcasts that we've done, you kept talking about how wrestling is in trouble, right? So, hold on a second before you get going. Let me get it out. So, if it's done right, we wouldn't have a problem, because you would have to have a license. You would have to be properly trained. You would have to have some type of notoriety behind you to show that you could be booked on the show. That stops the promoters for bringing in guys and paying them only $20, and it stops that, does it not, if it's done right?
Well, you got a point there, where, it'll wean out the garbage, no doubt. But some people, hey, they'll get the money. They'll get a physical. That don't necessarily mean it's going to stop guys that can't wrestle get into business, okay? The most important thing is, the way the business is now, it's oversaturated with individuals wanting to be professional wrestlers. That's why I believe that the commission jumped on the bandwagon to try to get more and more and more states certified as a commission so they can get money, period. I mean, I understand what you're saying about the individual that passed out and had to go, had to use emergency services there. But, in my opinion, that, over 30 years of doing this stuff and going to different states and dealing with the commissions and the wrestling license and all that, I just feel that, it just don't make no sense. It's nonsense.
I'm just saying, Hughes, because there's a currently a court case going on in the wrestling business right now where TNA Impact, they got sued because they were trying to make a guy go into a first blood match, and he told them that he's not doing no type of first blood match if the blood work is not done first. So again, what do you think about that? Like having proper blood work and stuff like that, like just making it more legit, making it more like of, you know what? The more that we just sit here and talk about it, I'm not against it anymore because it sounds like a very good idea, but it has to be run properly. Like if the commission gets together with certain schools that are legit schools, like when you used to run the WWA4, if y'all get together and create a chain, this is a good idea. I'm sorry, it sounds like a good idea to me.
Well, chain,
It really weeds out the garbage. It really does.
Here's the thing, man. Okay, just for example, say I've trained you, and here you are on your first journey, going out to your first gig. Okay.
Yes.
And you're not familiar totally with the license situation yet, and you haven't really made any money wrestling yet. And so you go to this gig, and they tell you got to have a wrestling license. It's going to cost you 45 big ones to get a license. And if you do not apply, you can't wrestle that night. So how would you feel about every time you went to a building, even though you might go to that building once in a year's time, and you have to pay 45 bucks just to wrestle that night, and they never booked you again for that whole year? Do you feel that it's worth your time to give them half your money? Okay, because we already know what the payoff is for most young people. And you go to this show and you got to pay 45 big ones to get on this show. And they give you this license that you'll have in your wallet for a whole freaking year. And then after that year, it expires again. Would you be happy about giving your hard-earned dollars up like that if you don't do a regular gig at this particular state?
I think that it is a brilliant idea. Just think about it like this, okay? You ran the WWA for basically to a T. Okay, we had shows every Thursday, and we wrestled for free just so we can get the knowledge that we needed in order to wrestle in front of different crowds, wrestle in front of a small crowd, just wrestle in general, wrestle on camera. So let's just say it's 3 wrestling schools in Georgia. No. You got to choose between one of them 3 wrestling schools, and once they feel that you've passed, you get your license, and then you can go out and do shows outside and get actually paid. That will stop you from going to these rinky-dink shows and getting paid less than what the average person is getting paid. This, Hughes, right now, what you're doing is you're solving the problem with professional wrestling right now. That's what you're doing. That's what you just did, literally. Okay? I'm sorry. That's what you did. You just did it. Congratulations.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm just so fed up with, I go get a gig, man, and I don't want to think about nothing else. First of all, okay, I'm gonna tell it to you just like this. I don't care about nothing else but wrestling. Period. I'm a healthy dude. The people that I bring on the shows are pretty healthy. So there's no need to dip down in your physical business. Asking you, is anything wrong with you? Can you do this? This is not like a regular gig, you might say, like boxing or MMA fighting, okay? This is professional wrestling. Now, most of the guys, 9 times out of 10, most of the young men and women that get in the business wanting to get into business because they're hungry to perform in front of people. And I feel that the commissions kind of like myself, I'll shy away from states that have commissions. Why? Because like I said, I don't want to go through all this. We need to fill out they send you some paperwork, and you got to put pretty much your whole life on that piece of paper. I don't know who these people are. I don't know if these people, gonna use that against me or somewhere down the road. I mean, it's pretty personal stuff that you got to put on that sheet of paper. You seen what they look like. You seen the paperwork that you have to fill out. They pretty much ask you everything a doctor's office asks you. But here's this paperwork floating from this person to that person to that person. Even though after you fill it out and give it to the commissioner guy that's there at the show, he puts it in his little briefcase, gets the money, and ain't no telling where he's doing with all that paperwork. Now, do you understand what I'm saying as far as your personal medical business being exposed?
I understand that, but I also think that if you know you're not supposed to be doing it and you're doing it anyway, then you deserve to get caught. Just like in any MMA fight, when people get caught with steroids, they deserve not to be able to fight because you signed a contract or you signed up to a promotion to tell them that you're legally not on these drugs. You're gonna legally fight without being on these drugs or whatever you have to do. So you don't think that this guy is in the right with TNA taking them to court because he doesn't want to have a first blood match. Like, he did not want to have a first blood match unless they would provide proper blood work, and he didn't want to wrestle and they tried to force him to wrestle a first blood match.
Well, I mean, personally, I feel that's up to the individual if he wants to bleed or not the promoter. Now, back in the day, you didn't have a choice because it drew money. You understand? And so, if the guy feels that he don't trust whoever he's wrestling, that the person his blood might be tarnished or something like that, he don't want to take a chance, because I know some people do have, like, hepatitis or whatever, things like that. And so they're trying to be on the safe side, which I understand. And there's always alternatives to getting color. And so, when it comes to things like that, I feel that they should have came up with a different way of doing things besides making that guy, forcing him to get color. Because it doesn't matter these times in wrestling that you bleed or not. People are already smart to the game. And so, I think the guy has a legitimate gripe. But on top of that, I feel that, commissions, even though you were saying that you feel it might be a good thing that they do that, but let me tell you this. Say you get booked on every state. For a whole month, you get booked on every state that has a freaking commission. And the license you have in Kentucky, you can't use in North Carolina. It just don't work like that. So that means you're going to have to get a different license every time you go to a different state. That's going to add up.
I don't think so, because anything that you come to, like, if you come together on as a collective, if all states come together and say you all have to have a driver's license, you all have to have car insurance, that's how these things started. So if we all come together as a wrestling community and we pick out and we weed out all the baloney promoters, we weed out all the baloney wrestling schools, and we certify which ones can actually, provide you with a proper license, we wouldn't have these problems.
Now, see, now, if you were talking about starting at the school, let's say, for example, we start at the school here with each student. He goes through his training. He has his graduation 5-minute match, and then after that he starts doing gigs at the school. Then on top of that, eventually he starts doing shows outside of the school. Now, if they would have pertaining to each individual school that you can get a wrestling license at that school,
yes, exactly,
to go
that's what
out
I'm saying,
and do shows, then that would be a much better way to do it.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
But the thing about it is, it don't work like that. That's not how it's set up. It's set up as a state-to-state thing. Some states don't have, like I said, some states don't have a wrestling commission. Georgia don't have one, okay? Kansas don't have one. But across the bridge over Missouri, you have to have a freaking wrestling license. I don't understand why. Because it's still professional wrestling, period.
Because that's what we allow. We are allowing this to take place. You know what I'm saying? We are allowing them to tell us that we have to have this, we don't have to have this. I'm
Right.
sorry. That's what we're allowing them to do.
Exactly, but the reason why they don't have it in Georgia is because a lot of people came to fight for not having a commission, because the people know, wrestlers know, promoters know that it will definitely hurt the profession here in the state of Georgia, and a lot of other states agree as well. So some of them, if you go, say for instance, they say, okay, we're gonna do a commission in freaking Michigan, where you're from, and you go up there and you do a lot of shows, and all of a sudden they want to do freaking commission. You gotta have a freaking wrestling license up that way, and they want to hear from the public on how they feel about it, and that's going to determine if they're going to proceed with getting the commission going in Michigan. Okay, so if you don't show up to fight with everybody else, guess what's going to happen? They're going to have a commission in Michigan, and there's nothing you can do about it. Why? Because you did not go fight and get your words heard.
Right, exactly. But I'm just all for what you have to do outside of the big, the big business. Because regardless of what you say, Hughes, and I know you know this, if you are in the WWE currently, you have to have all of these things checked off before you can wrestle for them. You
Well,
have to.
that's WWE. Why? Because they're $1 billion company.
And why?
They
Because
do not want to get sued. They don't want to get nothing coming back to them. They got the money. They got what it takes to all the resources to make sure nobody comes back to them later and said, "Hey, this wasn't done and that wasn't done." When I was in WWF, WWE. When I was there, of course, they gave everybody. Gave you before you even get in that ring. I don't care if it's a tryout. You have to get a physical. I understand that part. But here's the difference between indie shows and WWF shows and WWE shows. When you go to a state that has a wrestling commission, the WWE pays your wrestling license for you. You don't have to pay a daggum dime. So that stress is not on you to dig in your pocket every time you go to any particular state to pay for a wrestling license. Automatically, they bring you a piece of paper. They say, sign this. Each state you go to, they'll have a whole list of freaking sheets of paper with different states that have a wrestling commission, and you sign your name on all those pieces of paper so you don't have to worry about it, but focus on professional wrestling. Now, on the indie scene, it's not like that. It's not like that. Everything you have to do, you have to pay for yourself. You talk about the blood work that you had to pay for on all this other stuff for this MMA stuff that you used to do. You had to pay all this, almost $100, man, to get all this stuff done so you can get out there and perform. The difference between WWE and independence is a totally different ball game to what's going on the lower level.
I think everything that you should, I'm going to say it again. I think everything that you do in your independent career should get you prepared for the next, where you're trying to go, your end goal, which is WWE. Everybody's trying to get to WWE regardless.
What about the new league?
AEW?
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to provide you with that's the thing. If you're trying to be a legit promotion and not a backhanded one that's just trying to pay wrestlers $20 or whatever, a hot dog, barely pay them.
Yeah.
If you're trying to be one of those, then of course you won't provide everything that's needed to be provided.
And
I go to wrestling shows and they don't even have security sometimes.
I've been to a lot of shows where they don't have security, and I'm a heel. I'm a bad guy. I get people riled up, and I get people that pretty much come close to putting hands on. But see, I'm not gonna let that happen. But that's another podcast. But the most important thing what we're talking about today, AT, is commissions. Why do they exist? And what reason do they exist? I mean, in my opinion, I just feel that they're a waste of time and money.
They might be a waste of time, but the reason why they exist is because of your famous word that you love is kayfabe. And if you guys back in the day weren't trying to put over this facade that wrestling was what it wasn't, then two things. I'm sorry, I'm really against you on this podcast. Two things. One, we wouldn't have to worry about commissions because they would know that it's just like watching a TV show. And two, we wouldn't have to worry about everybody that doesn't like wrestling or somebody that doesn't know anything about wrestling keep coming up to us constantly saying, is wrestling real? Is wrestling real? It's all because of kayfabe that people ask these questions. It's all because of kayfabe that there is this wrestling commission that's getting over on people and making them buy license. It's you guys. It's your guys' fault. It's your old heads. It's your guys. It's your fault.
Don't put it on me, okay? I didn't create the commission, okay? I learned about a commission years and years ago when I went to Missouri. We used to go to Missouri my earlier years in professional wrestling when I got started, and Bob Geigel, which was the promoter at the time and the guy that trained me, he used to take care of the license. We did not have to pay for a license back then, okay? But now that these promoters realize that if they have a commission, they realize these licenses aren't cheap. You got, just imagine you had to pay for everybody's license. Man, you ain't gonna make too much money at the gate for yourself because you didn't pay everybody's license off. Okay?
Right.
And some guys don't take bookings if they have a commission. Like myself, I don't take bookings that have commission. Period.
Okay, so what you're saying is, as far as, yes, WWE provides you with your license.
They pay it for you.
They
Yes.
pay it for you. So would you think like semi-smaller companies like TNA and Ring of Honor, like they would pay for your...
I think any company that's on TV, okay, that's on nationwide, all over the world television, should pay for their stars' license because they're making money off those guys anyway. I feel if you're up on that level, I think the company should take care of your license. Since they take care of your physical, they take care of everything else, they might as well take care of your license because you're the one that's booked in that city. You didn't ask to go to that city, but the company booked you on that city because they're trying to draw money at the gate. And so each company that's big, like WWE and TNA and Impact and all those, all those companies, I believe, should take care of the license part so you can focus only on the wrestling. Period.
Got you. So, on this podcast, we like to talk trash about things that you don't like. But we also like to not only talk about it, we like to try and figure out how to fix the problem. So, how do you go about getting a license for those out there listening to the podcast that didn't know or don't know how to, get a license?
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. Whatever state promoter calls you from, if they have a commission, then therefore you have to get a license. And if you're not familiar, you're going to have to ask the promoter what's the method of going about getting a wrestling license in that particular state. And I guarantee you this, someone will tell you that, they're not going to pay for it. And they'll tell you what you need to do. They can either email you a copy of the wrestling license itself, and you do a printout, and you fill it out and you extradite it back to the commission, wherever state that you filled out that applied for that license. Okay, and so sometimes it takes a week or two to get your license back. Now, sometimes when you go to shows, commission's already there. And so when you walk in the building, you said it earlier, we went to a show in Alabama and it was kayfabing the commission because I wasn't going to go. I was trying to teach y'all, you don't have to pay these people. Just hide for a little while. They'll leave. Eventually they left. And you didn't have to pay the freaking 45 big ones that they were getting from everybody else. But we still did the show.
So, okay, in that case, that was going to be my next question. So, as we did not help the guy out, we didn't provide what we wanted, and Navy, I believe, Darkmon, he signed different name. He put something different. He put everything that wasn't true on the paper. So, what happens if you don't have your license and you go and you wrestle? Because I know that the promoter, I'm not going to say which promoter it was, he told you that the commission's here, do what you want to do with them, you know what I'm saying? If you want to pay him. If you don't, you don't. Does he get in trouble? Do you get in trouble? Who gets in trouble there if it's not proper information?
Well, first
provided?
of all, if the commission don't get the money from the promoter, and the promoter says, hey, it's up to the individual wrestler to buy his license. So therefore, the commission, he's going to go looking for you. He's going to try to find you. Now, he's going to set up camp in one spot. So you have all the paperwork out, have his briefcase open so you can fill out, take a picture, do all the things he needs for his records to indicate that you were there. You're the one that signed the paperwork, takes your picture, making sure that that's the same person that's on the contract that you signed to get your license. Okay, but sometimes a commissioner will, just like myself, I did that before. You said something about Darkmon, putting the kayfabe name down there. I did that a couple of times too, where they'll ask you for your social security number. That's a little too deep. I'm not gonna give you a stranger my social security number, and because, like I said earlier, AT, you're only going to probably need that wrestling license one time, and that's that particular night. And you probably won't be back the rest of the year. So what's the use of me putting all my info on this piece of paper that I'm only going to use one time that particular night. So if I put the gimmick name down there, it don't matter. Hey, it's not going to be on my record that I was there because it doesn't matter. I'm not coming back anymore that year anyway.
So again, what happens if you get caught? Like, now, who gets in trouble? Does the promoter get in trouble? Or do you get in trouble?
Well, I mean, fingers crossed you don't get caught. Never got caught. So I don't know who's liable on that end. But as far as myself, I never got caught because I've been doing it too long. Been dealing with them too long. So I that's a question I can't help you on that one.
Got you. Because I remember Navy, he was telling them, because, Navy Blue, that's his real name. So he was trying to tell the dude, he was like, yeah, this is my name, such and such. My ID is in the car. You know what I'm saying? I'll get it, after. I'm busy right now. So that's just something that it's a hard name to believe that that's actually his name in the first place. But it doesn't seem like it's that important. Why do it in the first place if it's not that important? It doesn't, like you're saying, it doesn't seem like there's any too serious repercussions that it's going to happen to you whether you have it or not. It's just whether if the booker is strict on it or not, basically, right?
Well, like I said, some bookers, they book people. They know they have a commission, but they'll let you know when they call you for the booking. They say, hey, I'm interested in doing some business with you, but we have a commission, and this particular promotion doesn't cover your license. So I'll send you a link so you can go online, go ahead and get the paperwork done so you can go ahead and get your license before the gig. Now, the gig might be 3 or 4 months down the road. So promoters letting you know ahead of time what you need to do to go ahead and apply for your wrestling license. Now, either you can say yay or nay. Either you can say, yeah, I want to do business with you, or you can say, no, I don't want to go through all the physicals and all the stuff that you have to do just to get a wrestling license, and I'm only going to be there less than a year on shows. You follow me?
So say Kentucky Show A that called you and was like, hey, Mr. Hughes, we want to bring you down here, such and such, do you have a license? And instead of you saying no, you would have just said, yes, I do have it. And then he would have asked you to provide the information. You would have been like, I got to find it, and yada, yada, yada. So say you would have kayfabe to the promoter, played him up into the show, and do you think he would have let you work if you would have never provided this information? Or would he, if he would have just continued to let you work or
Some
not?
of them do. Some of them do. Some of them will believe you and let you, do that. And then you screw them in the end, and then they realize they got screwed, and they say, well, that'll never happen again.
Gotcha.
I've seen it happen many, many times where guys will say, yeah, let me do this, and I'll do that later, blase, blase, and they sneak out the back door after they went to the pay window.
So if you're wrestling in this particular state multiple times on the regular, you are saying right here now, yes, it's okay to have a license.
No. No.
Excuse me. What?
I'm telling you, AT, I disagree with the wrestling license stuff. Okay? That's why I wanted to do this podcast, because I feel that a wrestling license is not necessary in wrestling. Okay? It's not like boxing. It's not like MMA. I believe that they try to come up with a commission for wrestling because they know it makes money. On some venues make a lot of money. WWE make a ton of money. Their houses are down, but they still have a regular following of people. Okay, and so even though they probably get most of their money. Matter of fact, the commissions in all these different states get most of their money from WWE when they come to town. Period.
Gotcha. So, okay, we got about 12 minutes left before we bring Chad Skywalker on. Let's talk about something that's been bounced around for years and years and years. How come, and it's kind of pertaining to the license, how come we do not have a wrestling union?
Well, that's a good question. For years, guys been trying to get a wrestling union together. And see, here's the deal, folks. when it comes to a wrestling union. Everyone has to be on board for this. You can't have some people sitting on the fence on this deal. Now, to make this thing work, a lot of the big stars have to get involved. I mean, the biggest stars in professional wrestling need to get off the fence and come with the little stars and fight. Because after it's all over and your career is done and all the money's been spent, okay, and you have crippled, there's no pension, there's no nothing that you're going to receive. Just like the football players. They get a pension after playing so long, even though they're half crippled, half of them, and have knee surgeries multiple times. They have sources of money coming in on a regular basis due to the unions that were formed for that particular sport. Now, in wrestling, I believe that we should have had one a long time ago. They tried. Some guys got together and tried to come up with a union, but some people at the top, I ain't gonna say no names, but some companies at the top grabbed those other stars and talked to them about, hey, don't do this. This is going to hurt the business. It's going to hurt our company. It's going to hurt our bottom line. So those stars that were at the top that were going to go into this deal with the union, putting it all together with a whole bunch of other names and stars that's in professional wrestling, it almost came to pass, but these guys got talked to by the big companies and told, I guess they lined their pockets and say, don't do it, we'll give, whatever the case, please don't do it. Yes, that's why there's no wrestling unions in professional wrestling today. You see young guys, young ladies all over this country. You've been on shows, you've been on Fan Fest with me, and you see guys all broken down and look like they don't have a window to throw the piss out of. I mean, it's sad that these guys, they made millions. They've made hundreds and thousands of dollars, but when they're all done with the wrestling game and all the money has dwindled away, the union is not there to back them, to help them get some compensation for their injuries that they sustained in the wrestling ring as in their long careers. I'm pretty sure that if people got together, like people like The Rock and Hulk Hogan and big names got together and said, hey, I want to form a union. It can be done. But these guys are not concerned about other wrestlers because their careers are going the way they want them to go. They're not thinking about the guy down on the lower top of the totem pole. They're thinking about, hey, I'm making my money. I ain't worried about it. It ain't hurt my career none. But see, here's the deal. There's a lot of guys in the ground that didn't have opportunity to have no union. A lot of them, got old and got crippled and died. And that's the end of their story, okay? And so if anyone out there hears me that understands that it's very important to have a wrestling union and cut the commissions loose, hey man, put it together. Somebody with some clout, put a freaking union together. What can it hurt?
I don't think it can hurt. I think it can only help because nowadays, literally all the other sports, the players are coming together as one to make sure that not only that they're set, but the future of the sport is set and ready to go. Because with everything that we talk about on this podcast and all the problems that need to be fixed with mostly that's setting on the promoter side, I think it will be fixed with a union. Like a lot of things that I spoke on earlier in the podcast that I agree with the license and stuff that would go a far way if done properly could be solved with a union.
Well, I'm just saying, man, if like I said, people talked about it, people wanted to do it, but you don't have no heavy hitters involved. You got to have heavy hitters involved if you want to get a union started. Just like with any company. I remember back in the 70s, when they had the auto union had that fight going on. I tried to, help the union workers, try to get them going. and some people died along the way. But boy, let me tell you, they got it done. Now people get paid well after their retirement. Wrestling don't have that. And when people get done wrestling, they're done. They have to get a shoot job, a real job, so they can pay their bills. They are not getting a pension check that, say for example, being in WWE 3 or 4, 5, 6 years, you should accumulate some pension in that company if they would have had a union. But they stopped it. They said, don't do it. It's going to kill the business, scared some people straight, and they did not pursue it, period.
Even as a, in air quotations, independent promoter, do you think that a union can work?
Yeah, but it's got to have some heavy hitters in it. You just ain't going to pop up no union because you got to have money in the bank. To have a union, you have to have money in the bank. You have to have wrestlers contributing to the cause, to the fund, to the union fund, so it can build. But if you don't have people putting money into the union, how can you have a union?
Do you think that calling us independent contractors hurts us in the long run? Do you think that calling us independent contractors hurts us in the long run?
No, because that's what you are. Because you are a promoter's calling you for your services. That's why you're an independent person. Just like a painter. If you paint, person call you, hey man, how much you charge me to paint my living room? And you tell them your fee. Wrestling is the same way, just like a roofer. You call a roofer, you tell him how much you charge him to fix your roof. It's the same thing. Wrestling, same way. That's why it's independent. That's why you're an independent person. That's why they call individuals. Hey, I know this guy, ATLien, he has a great character. We'll use him for the show. I know Mr. Hughes, he's a great character. I use him for the show. We're all independent contractors. So he's trying to figure out a way to make this show a good show. And so he'll call individuals. He ain't going to call a tag team. That's why when I trained you guys and explained to you that it's an individual sport. So if you get a job and you tag with, so if you tag with someone on a regular basis and they just want you, then that's all they're going to get.
So that's what WWE does. They bring you in as a character, as that character. They keep and own that character, and then they get rid of you, and then what you do with yourself outside of there is up to you.
Well, it depends. That's why before you get to WWE or any other company, you have to make a name for yourself. That's what you do. You make a name for yourself on the indie scene. You get an opportunity to get on television. You make a name for you on the television. You just work your way on up and up and up and up and up until you get the gig. Until you get the big gig. Once you get the big gig, and WWF or NXT or TNA or Impact, whoever, sees that you have a following of fans, and they'll say, okay, this guy has already a following with that name. We don't want to touch that name because he has a following. Now, here's the deal. When I went to WWE, WWF, I used my real name. I started out using my real name, Curtis Hughes, Big Cat Hughes, Mr. Hughes. That's my real last name. But even though it's my real last name, it's the character that I'm portraying, not myself, so to speak. I'm not portraying Curtis Hughes. I'm portraying this character that was created by Dusty Rhodes that he gave me as the bodyguard. And so with that, that's how I got myself in there and got over. Once I did my stuff before WWF, okay, I was at AWA, WCW. I can go on and on up to the WWF where they liked what I did. They saw what I could do. I was a big guy doing great things as a big person. But the most important thing I'm going to hit this is I use my name. Now, once I got to WWF and I got the contract, okay, on the contract it said wrestling name and real name. And wrestling name was Mr. Hughes. I signed as Mr. Hughes. Real name, Curtis Hughes. I signed that. That's the deal. So whenever they put me on something, I get a royalty for that. Why? Because I own my character. I own my name. Now, you mentioned that they bring people in and they'll change your name. Of course they will. They changed Heath's name. His name was Heath Slater, but they changed it to Heath Miller. Apollo Crews, his name was Nation, but they changed it to Apollo Crews so they can get. Once he leaves, he don't get no more royalties for the action figures because they own that name. Same thing with Heath Slater. They own that name. Period.
All right, Mr. Hughes. This is definitely an interesting conversation for a whole nother podcast because we're running out of time.
No doubt about it,
We're running
folks.
out of time.
Yes, we are. And folks, I tell you what, a great hour we had thus far. Me and the ATLien talking about the subject of wrestling commissions, folks. And I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed it. And we're going to be bringing in our guest here in just a few minutes. So stay with us. Don't you dare go away. Hello, folks. Total Protection, Mr. Hughes back with you for our second half of the Total Protection, Mr. Hughes podcast, where I bring in one of my former trainees to get the genesis on his professional wrestling career and what his plans are as far as how high does he want to go in professional wrestling. Going to be Chad Skywalker on our 7th episode of the Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast. My co-host, the ATLien, AT, the subject first half, of the Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast was wrestling commissions and wrestling licenses. You didn't like that too good.
Actually, I did like it. We went kind of back and forth, but people heard about that already. It's time to bring.
I understand, but I was just letting the folks know what we were talking about so they understand what we're talking about. But anyway, without any further ado, we're going to bring in our next guest, a very talented individual from Augusta, Georgia. A very, great athlete, looks good. But when he first started, he was a young fella. So he got started at a young age. So we're going to get the genesis of his career and what inspired him and to make it, inspired him to want to be a professional wrestler. Let's put it that way. So without any further ado, our seventh guest here, a seventh guest on the Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast. Boy, I tell you, I got my lemon juice here, folks, and my voice is just playing tricks on me at the present moment. We're going to bring him in right now, Chad Skywalker. Chad Skywalker, welcome to our 7th edition of the Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast.
Thank you.
My co-host, the ATLien, we both going to come at you today with a lot of questions because we want to the fans to know because everybody has a beginning of when they started and folks like to know sometimes. So without any further ado, Chad Skywalker, everybody. What's up, Chad?
What's up? Peon Chad Skywalker in the building, taking off.
Well, Chad, I'll tell you something, man. We got a few questions to ask you, man, and if you could get a little detail on some of them, the questions, so people really want to know and understand. That's the key here on these type of podcasts that Total Protection Mr. Hughes does, and as we want to know exactly how you started, what bug bit you, and what was you watching that made you want to be a professional wrestler. As I say all the time, myself, Holly Race. Was the one that inspired me to be a professional wrestler as a kid. I'd watched him and Rufus R. Jones have some barn burner matches, and of course the ATLien, his go-to guy was CM Punk. Is that right?
Yay,
Mr. Hughes. I'm gonna just go with that because that's what you always like to throw out there. It's not true, but that's what we're gonna go with. Okay,
hey, bro, it's okay, bro. See, your Punk was an influence, inspiration.
So with that said. So Chad, we're gonna get right into this. So tell us, how did you, how to get started? Who inspired you to want to be a professional wrestler? Let's get to that part first.
All right. So first, I was actually introduced to professional wrestling by my uncle / brother / dad. He's not here no more. My first memory of wrestling was Wolfpack. You know what I'm saying? Conan, and then
NWO,
yeah, Wolfpack. And then later on I started, I was watching a lot of Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys, Chris Benoit, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. Like, those are the ones that I grew up, watching. So yeah, like that.
Okay, so you say your uncle got you involved in watching wrestling.
Yeah.
So which particular wrestler like I said, once you saw him, you'd be like, oh man, I want to do that when I grow up. Which wrestler was that?
Real talk. Right, I'm really. I feel some type of way. I can say it now, but I used to be afraid to say it because everybody would throw it on me. But like the Hardys were the ones where like when they were doing like the triple threat tag teams, and they was doing the ladder matches. That's when it was lit. And so like, the styles between me and him was similar, and the attitude was as well, so far as being like autonomous and fearless for the most part.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said that the Hardy Boys, and of course, before you actually got into finding out the right school to go to, what'd you actually do? As far as like, did you do any sports in school? Was you an athlete?
But I'm an All-American, dog. Like I ain't play all the sports in school. I was in school. I played baseball. I played basketball. Those were the main two. Football was like in the neighborhood. Wrestling was even in the neighborhood. My school didn't have wrestling, but like everybody that knew me, even when I went to military school, everybody that knew me knew that wrestling was like my passion.
Okay, so you went to military school as well, and I'll tell you, folks, I don't know if you've ever been to a military school, but their whole objective is to teach discipline. Oh, yeah. And did you feel you got that?
I mean, I got it, but as time goes on, we require more. So I'm receiving my lessons.
Well, I'll tell you, military school does help a lot of young men out, and without it, some young people go astray, and apparently it got the job done on yourself. Yeah. And so you got inspired by the Hardy Boys, and so where you come from? I told the people earlier that you're from Augusta, but is that where you were born?
So I was born in Augusta, around 99, 2000. 99, I moved to Atlanta, moved back to Augusta for a year, came back to Atlanta and stayed.
Went back and forth.
Yeah, man, I've been all through Atlanta, north, south, east, west. Mm-hmm. Central. Yeah.
So when you got bit by the bug, the wrestling bug, what did you start going to any shows once you started seeing all this NWO people and the Hardy Boys on WWE?
First show I went to was it was WWE. And the Hardys, it was a house show. It's in Augusta, so it's not really a capital. But yeah, that was like the first show I went to. Was SmackDown actually, and that's when the first one I went to was Backlash, and it was when Chris Benoit and MVP had the rivalry going on, and that was my first time experiencing professional wrestling live.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that would have been an exciting thing to go see a live professional wrestling show from just watching it on television. Because myself, as a young fella, I used to watch it on Channel 41 in Kansas City, and then when I had opportunity, when I got bigger, to go actually see a professional wrestling show at the place to where they used to have the shows on television at the same building. I tell you what, it was an exciting thing to do, and I can imagine how you felt on that subject. So you went to a show in Augusta, and then at the age, what age was you at that time?
Man, look, man, I don't even know. And to your last statement, we try to get friends and family to come to the show and get that experience. They just don't know what they're missing out on. But anyway, when I started,
how old was you think?
Man, it was after military school, because you remember I came.
You was a teenager.
I came. I was goth as I don't know what.
Right, yeah, totally, yeah.
I was so goth. But like I came maybe 16, 17.
Right.
Did military school, got out, and then 6 months to a year afterwards, then I joined. So that was probably 2011.
Okay, so now we're gonna backtrack just a second here.
Yeah, do that.
You said you was in some goth, and we're gonna elaborate just for a few minutes on that.
Much, but
and AT, if you want to jump in with me on this one, you can, because you pretty much saw how he was back then as well.
Don't laugh.
And so we're going in at the WWA 4 here. You started coming, watching shows, correct? So how did you find, before we get to that part, how did you find the WWA 4?
You want the true answer?
Yeah.
All right. So, Eddie and Chris kind of left at around the same time. And I was researching, me and my mom was researching wrestling schools, but we didn't find any at all, to be honest with you. Maybe we sucked. But she was watching the news, and when Benoit had left, they were interviewing you. And that's when she hit me up, like, oh, yeah, I found it. It's right up the street. It was like right down the street from it, Monte Vista, a Foot Industrial, Club Wax. Yeah. And then, that was my first
Okay, good.
time
So
up close to a ring.
So I believe Club Wax helped you come to the school because
yeah.
there was a strip club right up in the front. But
Actually, it was hard to find a school because
exactly.
the school was in the back.
Pretty much like every one of my students that I asked about, was it hard to find the school? And they did say at least they drove past at least once or twice. Mm-hmm. And so I noticed that what you're talking, you would come by during the shows and check out the school and just sit around and look goth, like you said, and everybody was kind of saying, "Who's this strange character sitting over here with purple and blue hair and rainbow hair and fingernail, black fingernail polish?" And
depending on like what kind of like environment you in, like because they people kept like relating me to Hardy because I had the colored dreads, I had like the chains, I had the black fingernails, I had a lot of time the slim fit. I had the trip pants. I had the
gimmick.
Remember I had the shoes. And I had the color tape on the shoes. It was like different color tape, spikes on the shoes.
Yeah, man, you look like a complete teenager that didn't know what he was, and
like he listened to Nirvana.
So when you came in, everybody was looking at you. They said, well, "Who's this character?"
In the room.
And you was kind of new as far as the character looked to everybody because you had black fingernail polish, black lipstick.
I was new to life.
Had pierced their nipple, pierced hole in your ear. I mean, this kid looked like he was a lost character.
I had that
didn't
best
know
shirt too now.
what he wanted to be. But anyway, you came in, you kept coming back, then eventually you decided that you wanted to get involved. And I believe you told me this before, that your mom gave you a birthday present which she wanted to pay your tuition, correct? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's what it was. So like when she saw it on the news. I don't know what I was doing. I was probably like outside doing something. But when she came and told me, first it was me going graduate military school. Then it was on your birthday, and so it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like that's something like this is the longest, like professional wrestling is the longest I've committed to nothing in my life longer than professional wrestling, aside from being alive. But like this is like the best thing that I'm good at. This is what I'm good at. So
That's a good thing.
yeah, I mean it is, and how you utilize it as well, mainly. So yeah, man, that's how I got into it.
Okay,
yeah.
so your mom paid for your tuition,
like
and
my
then
first
all of a
job.
sudden,
It's like
you started coming, and introduced you to all the students that were there already.
yeah.
And now I have to put this out there because people like to know. But once you started, some people was kind of reluctant
I
to
bet they
train
were.
with you
Man.
because they thought that you were
Say what if I would?
the rainbow flag.
Hey, what if I
there's
would?
nothing wrong
Hey, what
with
if
that.
I
I'm just
would?
saying.
Exactly.
But I had to sit them down and say, "Hey, yeah."
Should have told them I was.
I did as a rib and to see what they would do. But some of them just said they didn't care and they just trained with you and they realized that you were an easy guy to work out
this
with.
was a circus anyway.
They realized
All kinds of characters, huh?
They realized you was a good, easy guy to work out with, and so that went to the wayside. But as you got started, we first showed you how to do calisthenics like everybody else, stretching, which is very important. And then we get to the part about hitting the ropes. That's the very
I gotta
first
say something
thing.
real quick.
That's the very first thing that we showed you. And so, before we get to the ropes, what is it that you wanted to add to this?
Oh look, before I gotta give a shout out to the Octopus man, Gresham, because like before I got in the ring or pay anything, he like taught me a few stuff. You know what I'm saying? He kind of put me ahead.
He taught you a few things.
Yeah, he showed me a few stuff. I thought that was cool.
A few stuff.
Yeah, like the simple stuff, lock up,
That's
wrist
Georgia
lock.
talk, folks.
You know what I'm saying? A few stuff, yeah. Lock ups, wrist locks, head lock. Like
Georgia
he taught me a little bit
slang.
of stuff, after the show.
Yes, Jonathan Gresham, Smurf, one very, very talented individual.
Turn up.
We're going to get him on the show here one day soon, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the subject of today character is Chad Skywalker. So now, we'll let you get that in. Now we're going to keep going forward here. Every person I asked, when they first start is about pertaining to the when you started hitting the ropes. And a lot of people said the lower backs hurt from hitting those ropes. Did that happen for you?
Oh, no, man. I got a strong back. I always had.
Was it hard for you to learn how to hit the ropes?
Was it hard for me to learn how to hit them? I don't think so. I think the most challenging thing for me was learning how to tell a story in certain holds.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute because we're not that far yet, see, because you're just at the beginning of your training, so you ain't wrestling yet.
Yeah.
And so, AT, anything you want to add to this?
Not yet, Hughes, because when I first started Stitch,
You wasn't there yet.
all right, he was.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I wasn't there, and actually, Stitch was the person that you used to show us how to hit the ropes because he hit it like the fastest. Like instead of getting across the ring in 3 steps, he could get across it in 2. So actually, I admired the way that he hit the ropes, and it made me want to hit the ropes harder. And he never got tired during the drill. It admired me to not get tired during the drill. So starting up, I kind of looked up to Stitch a little bit.
Well, that's a good thing. And so you didn't get, the ropes didn't hurt you. You started off learning. I mean, you picked up stuff pretty good. You really did. And then we get to the part, of course, we go through everything, locking up and arm drag bumps and standing back bumps, things like that. So when you started taking the standing back bump, that was the first bump I actually show guys. Was you afraid to take that bump, or did it come easy for you? Tell us about it.
I guess technically I was afraid because who's mentally conditioned to just fall on their back, standing straight up? So once I saw it's right there in your face when you see other workers bumping. It's in your mind to do it right. Like if you do it like how it's taught to you, then you'll be all right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
that's what I kept in my mind.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and so everything's moving right along, man. You're learning pretty fast. It didn't take too long I show you one thing, you would have it, and we can keep rolling on. Now, the most important thing that I used to tell you guys was you have to write everything down. Now, you at first you was kind of reluctant because you was kind of lazy, and I pretty much explained to you that if you don't write this stuff down, you ain't gonna learn, and you're not gonna remember anything. Why was it so difficult for you to start writing stuff down?
Man, look, guess what though? I just figured out how to write. I figured out how to write my stuff out in a notebook, just now. Because I would write stuff out before, and I would overthink or write too much, and eventually I just throw away, something happened to the book. But now, last year, I figured out how to write my formulas down. So, I guess back then I was just hard to focus, stubborn.
But here's the deal. Everything's important, folks, as far as writing this stuff down. Mm-hmm. Some guys think they can just get in the ring and just do things without being explained, because the way the stuff's going to stick, you have to write it down, pen to paper. That's how it is in grade school, high school, college, so forth and so on. If you don't write down what knowledge you're getting, it's not going to stick to your brain. So if you're writing it down, you're going to remember what you're writing down. Therefore, you're going to remember everything I try to teach you. And of course, you finally started getting in gear after a while, and I try to see where each individual pretty much fits in as far as what he's going to be doing in the ring. And like you were a small guy, so that means your deal was you're going to have to fly a little bit. Yeah. And so I had to train you pertaining to like A.R. Fox, which he was a high flyer as well. And so that's why I used to have you do stuff with him so you can pick up on some of that high flying knowledge on top of old school professional wrestling. And and you did pretty good at that. So anyway, we get to the part of teaching you how to do drop kicks and things like that. Now, everybody was kind of scared with that drop kick. Tell us, how was the drop kick for you?
I say I got it in 3 to 5 tries.
3 to 5 tries.
Yeah.
But it might take 3 to 5 tries, but you eventually perfected it right to the freaking skull, like you're supposed to when you give someone a drop kick if you're trying to win the freaking match. Now, one in particular bump that I show everyone, and it's called the backdrop. Now,
Hey.
when it came to the backdrop, even though it looked like a spooky bump,
It was fun.
tell us what was going on through your mind when I first started showing you how to do the backdrop.
Man, I think it's what goes on through everybody's mind. Like some people scared of heights, you know, and then it's always like two stages. Like some people scared of heights, and some people scared to fall. The heights part wasn't a problem to me. It was landing flat that was like I had to perfect, because either you know how we like bump our heels on the mat, or like I would land on my lower back. But yeah, once I got landing flat down to protect myself, we was able to move forward.
Yeah, and I tell you, and so I'm telling you, once you got that backdrop, once you got things down, you did them pretty perfectively. When it came to the backdrop, when other guys after you got trained, I'd call you in the ring and I say, "Yo, Stitch, come over here. I need you to show this kid how to do a backdrop." Even ATLien, I even had him show you a backdrop because you used to do yours terribly. You remember that?
That's not true, Hughes. It's actually one of my better moves that I do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can say you do take a good backdrop. You take yours pretty high as Chad over here.
I don't know about that.
And folks, if you're listening to this podcast and you do take backdrops in your matches, because some people take terrible, terrible backdrops and they don't have a clue of how to take a backdrop, you need to look up the ATLien and Stitch Osiris or Stitch Cypher Chad Skywalker to see how these guys take these backdrops the same way I do them. I taught them how to do. So most of the things that you see that these young people do, folks, is I did the same thing that I taught them. So what you're seeing is a kind of chip off the old block, you might say, AT.
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Hughes.
And so, when people do see these guys perform in the ring, they know that they've been trained totally right. So we came to the backdrop, man. I mean, flying cross bodies, all that. I mean, it appeared to me that when we got to the flying cross bodies, they came pretty easy to you. Is that correct?
Yeah, they came pretty easy to me. All the flying, the high flying, the striking, and even the powerhouse. I could do that.
Powerhouse,
if I could get them up. Powerhouse moves, power bomb,
okay,
all that.
Right. Yeah.
If I can get them up, I can put them down.
Yeah, and so I noticed at an earlier in your training, man, it's like Ricky Morton, man. It's like he had a natural to sell. I mean, he had a natural ability to sell and to show the people that he was really, really in trouble. And I noticed when you would take bumps, you would actually sell like, I wouldn't really have to tell you, hey man, sell like this. It seemed like it was already automatic that you sold the correct way. So as I was watching, I'm going, man, this kid already knows how to sell. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and enhance my voice to tell him that he needs to keep doing that like that. And so tell the people and me and the ATLien here, did you already have a clue on how to sell on bumps?
I mean, if you ever got punched in your gut or your face before, if you ever stubbed your toe or hit your kneecap or anything, man, I think it comes natural. But see, like that didn't really register with me until I remember A.R. Fox was mentioning common sense, and when he mentioned common sense on selling, that's when it really pierced. You know what I'm saying? That's when it settled in. I got it. It's easy. Yeah, it was
a good thing.
I like selling.
And so, we continued the training, and then we get to the part, every Wednesday we would practice our promos. You quite, everybody's that way. AT, you were that way. It was kind of shy because we did it in front of everybody.
Working on it right now.
Which you had to work on them so in front of people so you can get the shyness out of it so you can just let it rip when that camera light turns red. Mm-hmm. That means it's recording. So when was it hard for you to do promos, man? Was you scared or what? Tell us about it.
I don't know. That's the ATLien, man. Man, look, it's like when the camera's in your face it's like demanding. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's real demanding. And I ain't never really been the type of person to where, like, you could just demand me to do something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the more my confidence was building, the more I was able to be comfortable in front of the camera. And the more I stopped trying to be something and learn more on how to just let me flow, then, you know, I was more comfortable. Whether if it was, like, the best or not, like, I was comfortable, you know, with it, that I was able to, like, you know what I'm saying, get through with it and actually, you know, get my point across.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which communicating with the fans is important, folks. That's why we do. That's why you have to get taught how to talk, how to do promos, how to let the folks know what kind of character you're trying to portray to them. And a lot of people don't do that these days. You see that sometime, AT?
Yes, Mr. Hughes, I do see that a lot these days.
So, when it comes to different characters, you know, some characters I don't understand. Like at the beginning, when you first started with the Stitch Osiris or Stitch Cypher
that
gimmick,
wasn't the first.
what was that character?
Nah,
Explain to the
that
people
first of
what
all,
was
that was-
Stitch. What was that? What was that gimmick?
First of all, the very first one was Stitch, right? He said, "What's your name?" I was like, "Stitch." He said, "Come on, man, you need a last name." And I was like, "Man, I don't know, man. Stitch the Glitch."
Yeah, man,
that was
Stitch
my
the
very
Glitch.
first
What
match.
the world is a
He was
glitch?
talking to me in the back, like, Stitch the Glitch? Like, I don't know. And then it went from Stitch the Glitch. Then it went from that to Stitch Cypher. And then it went to Stitch Osiris. Stitch Cypher, to be honest with you, man, I was just trying to come up with a cool last name. Now, I don't really, you know, I mean, if you want to relate that to, like, my mentality, sometimes when I speak, you know, it'll go over people's heads.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Cypher, you know,
Yeah.
Cypher. But the Osiris was, that was a pull from the hat too. Osiris, I used to always wear like Osiris gear, like the shoes. Me, Barron, and Joe Hiking were sitting in the living room in Baltimore. And they were like, "Man, we gotta give you a name that has like a nice chant to it, you know, like they were like with a rhythm." So after like 30 minutes, I was like, "What about Osiris, man? You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's got a good sound to it." And they were like, I mean, you know." And then I went with that.
And it worked out, no doubt about it.
I mean, I was dope regardless, you know, and they had their own personalities. So,
So we came up with a name for you, and eventually we got you all trained up, and it came time to have your 5-minute match to graduate to the Thursday gigs. Who was the person that you had your 5-minute match with, and tell the people how did it go and how did you feel?
Ooh, but I felt so stupid because my man, look, because you remember I was in the tag Air Ciphers, and I was with Airman Banks. I was tagged with him. He passed his practice match on the first go round. Me, I had like what, 3? I had 3 practice matches. And I remember like being a high flyer the first time, like I messed up. It was at the turnbuckle. So on the 3rd count, I passed I qualified the practice match to the show. And everybody, like, when you have a practice match, you had to go either Fox, Nation, and sometimes Baron. Around the time I started.
Sometimes Baron?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then you know when we started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into this. Your very first 5-minute match. Who was that with?
It was Fox, AR Fox.
How'd it go?
I messed up, and it took me 3 tries.
Okay, it took you 3 tries.
3
and
counts
I was
to
gonna
win.
ask you how many. Who's the second try with?
I think it was all 3. I think all 3 of them was him.
All 3 of them
Yeah.
with Amp, and the 3rd time was a charm, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so you passed, you graduated to the shows, and who was your very first match with on the WWE 4 Thursday show?
AR Fox.
Man, I tell you,
Yeah.
you and Fox was going at
Yeah,
it
boy, we
tooth
was
and
going
nail
at it,
here.
boy, yeah.
So I'm pretty sure you should have picked up a lot of wrestling as far as high flying from him. And of course, I do see a little bit of it, but the ground wrestling is what you want to stick to. It's okay to fly a little bit, folks, but you can't fly for 15, 20 minutes. You have to wrestle holds. You have to use holds. And going back to Jonathan Gresham, one of the I feel one of the best professional wrestlers I ever trained, because I can sit there and watch him. Not saying I can't sit and watch you guys have contests, but I can sit and watch him because he goes through the wrestling holds and he works the holds. That's the most important thing here, people. It's called professional wrestling, and if you want Mr. Hughes to watch some wrestling of you, you got to show me some professional wrestling. I don't care about all this flipping and flopping around. That don't amuse me.
Right.
What catches my eye and keeps me entertained is the professional wrestling, the wrestling holds, folks. At, so I'm gonna jump off here, Chad, for a second, and ask you this question: how do you feel about freaking no hold wrestling, just straight up spot fest?
So you gonna sit here and disrespect this man's craft
Oh,
of high flying?
I'm not really.
I didn't say.
Not really a spot
I didn't
fest
say.
kind of guy.
Whoa! Stop! I did not say
Nah, he instigated.
anything about
You hear this?
anything bad about high flying. I said you can add it to your match,
Uh-huh.
but some guys just do it totally in matches. No holds, no psychology, no nothing.
What they call them, spot
That's what I'm asking you here.
Ain't that what they call spot monkeys?
You got it.
Oh, okay.
Indeed. Yeah, I don't watch that kind of wrestling.
Thank you very much.
It's a fair blend of in the middle that we need to come to agreement with.
Well, some kids just don't have a clue. Some of them haven't been trained totally right. They haven't been explained how psychology works in professional wrestling. Where if it says wrestling on the marquee, that's what you got to show. It doesn't say spot fest show.
Yep.
It's supposed to be professional wrestling. Now,
No punch, no kicks, no nothing. Just
now,
wrestle.
exactly. Now, back to Chad Skywalker. You had been added to the shows now. Your first show on Thursday was with A.R. Fox, great talented individual. How'd that go, your first match in front of fans? How were you feeling your very first show in front of some real wrestling fans? How'd you feel, man?
Oh man, I was nervous. I had to go out and get drunk before I went out there. Man.
Whoa.
Nah, I'm just playing. Nah,
Hey,
nah, I'm just playing. Nah, I was nervous. You know, once I'm not really the type of guy, or hadn't really been the type of guy who gets nervous, or you know, a whole lot of those like feelings. But I realized that when I was nervous of going out, around like my second or third match, I realized that like this was like important to me. Like I actually cared about something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I was nervous, I was asking you questions like, you think they'll like me? You think I'll do good? I don't want to mess up. But you taught us how to improvise, you know? But even with all that, like I was still like surprised that you know, my heart was kind of pounding.
yeah.
Yeah.
You said
once I went
improvise.
out there, I killed it.
Right. You said
Yeah.
improvise. We're gonna pause there on that word for a second.
Improvise.
Which is very, very important word, by the way, which a lot of young people do not do. And that's how they lose. That's why they lose the fans' attention during the match. Now, imagine you're sitting there watching a professional wrestling match, and the match is going on, and there's nothing, no psychology, it's boring as hell. What do? I mean, most of the time people get up and go have a cigarette or go outside and go to the car and get in the glove box and bring out the bottle of whiskey and take a sip, and then go on back in after the finish in the last match. Now, so what I'm getting to here is now you're wrestling on a weekly basis now. Now it's time to try you in some tag stuff now. When you get to the point about tags, did you understand tags at first?
I don't think I understand anything at first. I just understood how to look good and do moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the time there was a young man there called Airman Banks, and it seemed like you two clicked together at the time. So I figured I'd try you two as a tag team, and it looked like y'all meshed together pretty good. Tell us about that.
Yeah, man, we was a nice patch of Oreos, man. Like, it was cool. And by the way, we got resembled to the Hardys a lot, and guess who got called Jeff Hardy a lot? Like, you know, me and Airman, like we had our styles were similar in the sense to where like how we moved. You know what I'm saying? Of course, we both were into high flying. We both were into this. You know, came up on the same wrestlers. You know, the synergy between me and him, it was pretty fluid.
So it seemed like you guys became good friends on top of that. And in the wrestling business, folks, people do, you do have friends. You do come up with close relationships. Some of them are legit, and some of them are just butt kissing relationships. But it appeared that you and Airman was like friends, correct?
Yeah, man, that was my boy, man. We used to go over. Me and my girl went over his house one time in Atlanta. Got snowed in. We spent a lot of time together, man.
Hanging out,
yeah,
talking about wrestling,
talking about
training together,
yeah,
working on
man.
things, and that's the key here.
Lighten the world up.
Because I'm pretty sure you had a tag team partner. He's probably no longer here. That was at the school.
What? That's my five. What up, five?
Oh.
And not he's talking about, folks. That's his Fizzive. And so you had the overnight. You had Airman Banks. Now I will ask you this. Now, did you and Stitch, Chad, excuse me, have a tag match with you and overnight? You ever had that match before, or was Airman gone already?
Yeah, he was already gone.
Two different time frames.
But one of my favorite matches that I've ever had, it was me and Stitch versus K9 and Axel. That was one of my favorite matches.
Is that match online?
It is. We
That
tore the
wasn't
house down.
before?
Yeah,
That wasn't the Super Show, was it?
We tore the house down.
You know, it was a good match too, though. It was you and Owen Knight versus me and Joe.
Yeah, that was a good
That was
match
good.
too.
Yeah. So these folks, these matches,
Joe
most
Hype.
of these matches that we're talking about are on YouTube. You go to the WWA4 YouTube page and you can just type in their matches and you can see all the old school WWA4 wrestling shows that we used to do with me commentating, working the camera. Just the whole show was pertained to teaching these kids how to be professional wrestlers, learn how to work in front of a camera. The whole setting of a professional wrestling show. So once they go out in the real world, they won't buckle and freak out, and their buttholes don't be puckering. And so you guys, I'm telling you. So you did the tags there with Airman Banks. You guys are rolling along. Did you guys ever have any belts when you was at?
Yeah, man, we was tag champs, bruh. What's up, man?
So how?
We was dope.
Well, okay.
Yeah, the abnormals. They was tough.
Confidence is fine. No
Always
doubt.
having it, but dog, it is.
Mm-hmm.
We got it. I think like twice.
Oh, good. So you guys got you had the belts twice. So apparently you were good enough to tote the belts for a minute.
And good enough to get cheated on and snuck by the abnormals. That's how we lost it. I remember that.
I
did not know that was gonna
Remind me of who the abnormals were.
Man, it was Fox, Barrett, and then Purple Haze at point. Yeah, and it came in, we won, and they came and gave me the backbreaker, gave
Purple
him a
Haze
code breaker, and
John Smith,
rock
Williams,
bottom,
folks. That's who Purple Haze is.
Yeah.
He's on YouTube. One of my former trainees, great wrestler, no doubt about it. We're gonna get him on there. Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast one of these days, whenever he comes up from Louisiana. Now, so now you're on the roll now, man. I mean, you got trained, you got taught how to do promos. You had great matches at the school, singles matches. Now tell me, folks. Here's the thing: you had a match with Darkman before. You remember Big Darkman?
yeah,
Navy blue.
yeah.
You had
I
a
actually
match
like
with
working
him.
him. Well, that was scary. I like working.
Tell
Darkman.
us about that.
I like,
was scary.
man. Look, I like working big guys. Darkman was vicious, and when I say stiff, I don't mean he was tater, but you know what I'm saying. He was stiff, and I like stiff working. I like to lay it in. I like to punch. I like to kick, and I like to splash. But like Darkman, like we had every time we work, it was edgy because Darkman had some killer moves like military press. You know what I'm saying? Facing up and back to a backbreaker.
It's the Bane backbreaker.
The Bane backbreaker.
Yeah, I suggested that to you. Did that.
That was dope. I'm always taking like crazy stuff. I never minding it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I liked about the WWA4, man. Because I've been to other places and everybody ain't open to trying stuff and training. You know what I'm saying?
That's the key, though.
Yeah, A4, like everybody was, the mentality there was, yeah, let's try it out. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's see about it. Yeah, let's work it out. And that's where my mentality comes from. That's why I'm always coming up with stuff and trying stuff and never like hesitant. Like when somebody has a move or I'm ready to take whatever.
Which is a good thing, man, because that's just where I trained you guys, man. You got to be creative, come up with your own stuff. Same as coming up with a finish. So now you're wrestling now. Now I tell everyone, be creative. Now here's the thing: we're gonna get into this right now. Now I tell all you guys that I'm not down with other people using other people's finishes. That's why we had 5 rings at the school. I told you guys, go in the ring and come up with something, a finish that you can use on anybody, any size, anyway. And so, my finish was the sidewalk slam.
Hey.
AT, what was your finish?
It's the Made in Detroit.
Made in Detroit, and I don't know what that is.
It's my own thing.
Exactly. And of course, Stitch,
At the time?
Chad, of course, you came up with this thing called sliced bread. Now, remember I said that guys have to come up with their own finishes that nobody has ever done. When you came up with that finish, that particular finish that you named sliced bread, was anybody else doing that?
Dog, yeah, I'll be real, but guess what though? I was the only one, and I'm still the only one doing it like how I do it.
Okay.
And so, I capitalized that with a swanton or a dragon sleeper. Mm-hmm. But that was me.
But I noticed though, but that was one of your key signature maneuvers that you would do on people close to going home. Mm-hmm. You would, set them up on the corner thing, do the sabada over, and I'd go crazy calling it the sliced bread. Now, some people, now I'm gonna get into this right now, AT. When it comes to finished moves, when it comes to doing your finish to someone, and a lot of people kill their finishes by this. What I'm saying is, say for example, you told us what your finish was, the Detroit something, and yours was the sliced bread. Now, when you apply that particular finish on someone, of course mine was the sidewalk slam. If I give you that finish, you're not supposed to kick out of finishes. Either sail to the rope, put your foot on the rope, or grab the rope, or put your foot under the rope, so you can be at the boundary so the ref can't count you 1, 2, 3. Have you ever seen that done where guys go in there, do a finish, and kick out?
Yes, Mr. Hughes. It is every indie match from every
Excuse
indie
me?
show. It's every indie match, every indie show from the first match to the last match. And it's not a problem if it was just in the main event, but everybody feels like they're the main event.
And I tell you, it's killing the business, folks. And if you young people out there and you're young and you're listening to Mr. Hughes here, okay, listen to what I'm saying here, folks. If you guys want some people to come watch you during your career in professional wrestling, you need to listen to what I'm saying. You cannot use other people's finishes in shows, like DDTs and pile drivers and things like that, and guys kick out. You cannot do that. Why? It's killing the freaking gig, folks. Now, back to Chad here. Now we're getting right along into it now, man. I mean, now you're going to be graduating to outside of the school shows now. Yeah. Now you're doing outside gigs now. And I mostly, before we go to the outside gigs, I got to say, I usually wrestle some of my students sometimes, folks, and I gave Chad an opportunity to experience working with a former superstar. And matter of fact, we did have a match at the WWA 4. Now, myself, I'm up in age, so I don't like people flying over the rope and catching people. And I told Chad here that he was a high flyer, so it was already in his freaking DNA. It was already in his freaking genes here. And so we were talking over the match.
Let me tell it, man. Nah, man. Look, man. Nah, man. Dog, look, man. Look. See, I ain't even want to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? Because I already know. I knew what I was capable of. So anyway, folks, we're going to long story short. Dope match. You know what I'm saying? Finish was clever and everything. I'm at my comeback. I'm talking about, like, getting it. He sails outside. Everything was mutual. You know what I'm saying? He hit me. I mean, we getting it, right? I go for the dive. Swanton over the top. This guy, I'm talking about without staggering, catches me out the swanton and put me right down the powerbomb, bro. I'm laying there like, dog, what? You know what I'm saying? Selling my ass off, man, because alright. You know? So I had to, that caught me off guard. I had to regroup, man. On the floor now. He powerbombed me on the floor.
And the reason why that
sometimes.
happened, folks, if I say I don't want to take no flying nothing on the floor, that's what I meant. And so I had to teach this young man a very important lesson.
Really?
If I say I don't want to do something, that's what I want.
You working me right now?
Don't want to do.
Are
No.
you working me right now? Because I would never say that to a veteran.
But you didn't do it no more after that.
Come on.
So
that
was a hard lesson learned.
I was a $150, man. You was the biggest.
Hard lesson learned. So anyway, we're going to keep it moving here. And so now it's time to graduate. I just wanted to throw that story in there because it was interesting. Moving further along here, now we're on the outside shows now. Now you graduated to the indie scene now. Now you're almost a professional wrestler. And I used to get my students booked on shows, folks, just to show them the ropes, show them how to do business with promoters, show them how to get their money, show them not how to get screwed by some of these no good promoters here. And so I got you booked on the show, and we were going to somewhere in Georgia gig. And on the way, I'm telling you the ropes about don't trust this person, don't trust that person, saying that they've been in the business over 10 years and they're acting like they're a veteran over you. And you don't have to always be honest when you tell people how long you've been in the business. It's okay to say you've been over 4 or 5 years, so people don't look at you like you're a totally greenhorn.
Yep.
And so I told you all this. We get to the building, we go in the dressing room, you're going around shaking everybody's hand like you've been taught, respecting. Mm-hmm. And finally you get to the guy that you're going to have a match with. And I heard him there talking with you. And I heard him ask you how long you've been in the business. And of course you did. You
told him the truth.
You told him what I told you to tell him. You've been over 4 or 5 years. And so then I heard this guy tell you, I've been in the business over 10 years, so I'm the freaking veteran here. And are they smarting you up to that kind of garbage?
No, you're not.
And so this guy gets in the freaking ring. You have a match with this guy. The match starts out, and I told you, if the match don't seem like this guy knows what he's doing, take over and call this match.
You already know.
So I'm sitting there watching through the freaking corner of the freaking door there.
What happened?
And the match starts to happen, and I noticed that this freaking guy was green, and you freaking, all of a sudden you took over the freaking match, and the match turned out great. Tell us about that.
Well, he was about as green as dead grass. Man, look, I mean, for what I remember of it, I don't even remember his name, but I was on the mat. I was laid out. He did something that was kind of off. He turns his back, argues with the ref. And I schoolboy him, cause I'm smart like that.
Yeah.
Just trained like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you broke me in pretty fine.
Right. So the finish came, man, and I told you in the back. I said, man, great match. You took over and you did what I told you, man. If you wouldn't have did that match would have been a total abortion. And it turned out great. So now you get your first payday of your career. How'd that feel for you?
I mean, I felt like it was something. You know what I'm saying? You felt good, like. It took a while for me to realize, like, oh, snap, like, I'm actually doing what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Doing what I love doing. And then, of course, when you get money, you get paid for doing that, you start to, you appreciate it, and then you like, all right, it's time to up the fee. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But quality went up.
Right.
Now.
Right now, so we're gonna move right along now.
Right,
just wanted to have that story. Now you're on the road. Now you're doing matches. Now you're getting booked yourself. Mm-hmm. Now you're a professional wrestler now, and then I don't know if this started at the WWE or you guys started just doing connecting on shows, but you and SP the Ghost started teaming up doing tag matches. Tell us about SP the Ghost.
Man, look, man, me and him kind of, we share a similar concept on spirituality. So, our vibe on that, like when I brought it up, it's like, yo, we should do it tonight when we got, because I told him, like, I've been brewing on it. And I'm talking about, like, first match of us tagging, like, I'm talking about, like, me and him flow was flawless. And the relation to that gimmick is something like Lone Ranger. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. When I think of Lone Ranger, I think of the one with Johnny Depp in. Because, I'm new school. That and yeah, man, like Ghost. I think me and him got good synergy. Versus each other and with each other.
Yeah. So
but we cool, but we cool.
But I noticed you guys came up with I don't know if you came up with it or Ghost. But I think you came up with it. You call yourself Spirits and Ghosts or something.
Oh, Guns and Spirits.
Guns and Spirits.
Oh
yeah.
man, that
Where'd
thing.
that come from?
Oh man, that shoot. Look, so Guns and Spirits is So my body, the tool, is what I use to utilize. Spirits is just, whatever you want to put in place. Some people think spirit, some people say God, some people say energy, some people say happy, mad, like whatever the motive, the driving force within you, you know what I'm saying? That's what that is. So it's guns and spirits.
Yeah. So man, now
Me
you
and
guys
God,
on the roll now, man. I mean, you're
Ancestors.
starting to go all over the country doing tag shows. I got you guys booked in Chicago with
Takeoff.
my buddy Ivan. Been knowing him forever and ever, and you guys been going up there. And then I make a call. I feel you guys are ready for the next level.
Well, you look
Time has went back past now. You're a great wrestler now, and so now I felt that it's time to the next level. What I mean by next level, folks, is it's time to get seen, get noticed by a bigger company. And so a friend of mine in Ring of Honor called I'll get to it here in a second here. But anyway, I gave him a call, man. I tell you, my mind plays tricks on me when you get over 50, folks. But bear with me here. But I gave my friend, that's the booker in Ring of Honor. I called
Hunter. You talking about Hunter?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man, I got you,
Well,
dog. Yeah.
I couldn't even think of it.
Yo, hit me up.
But yeah, Hunter. I gave Hunter a call. Hunter, answered the phone and hey, Hunter, how you doing? This is Mr. Hughes. Hey, what's up, Curtis? How you doing? I said, hey, what's going on, man? I understand you guys going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, on such and such a date, and I was trying to see if I can get some people looked at or whatever the case. And this is honest truth. This is what he said. He goes, yeah, Curtis, I respect you, man. You train some great wrestlers. You're a great wrestler, so forth and so on. This is shoot people. And he goes, tell me who the guys, because I thought he was going to say who's the guy. When he said who's the guys, when he put the S on there, I said, oh, okay.
Plural.
Here's my opportunity.
Yeah.
I said, Chad Skywalker and SP the Ghost.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right, yeah, I'll book them. Tell them to
Thank you.
be here at the such a time. I'll text you the info. So thank you very much. Hung up the phone. He texted me the info. I called each individual wrestlers, Chad and Ghost, told them what was up. They didn't believe me, so I forwarded them the text message that I got from Hunter, letting them know what time to be at the center stage. Now, the center stage is where I used to do my TV tapings in WCW days, so that was kind of like a dream come true. It's like a kid watching his son run down the football field has the opportunity to say, oh, man, this is awesome. And so I forwarded you guys this stuff. And when I told you about the gig at Ring of Honor, what was going through your mind, man?
Well, I dealt with nervousness again. I feel like even though it's more to the process than actually getting put on, I just felt like whatever I do, I'm gonna do the best and I'm gonna stand out. And then I went and got my suit. I got the 3-piece. I got the vest, the long sleeve button down, and the all black. Hit up Ghost. I prepared for that. And on top of that, right, I had got some new gear. This is when I hit the name switch. When I went from Stitch Osiris to Chad Skywalker, I decided to use my actual name. Right. And this was and I had ordered some new gear, right? But then when I made that decision to use my name, I had to hit the lady back up, and I asked her. This was going into the new year, and I asked her. I said, "Hey, you think you could change the name of my tights? No, you think you made me some new tights?" And she told me how many people she had ahead of me. So I went, and I just threw an extra 1 to 200, just to have it ready by what was it, February or January? And it was December. You know what it's like to make gear. It takes a while. Mm-hmm. So I just threw that extra hundreds, man, and
Yeah. All right, so
in black.
Right, so we get to the building,
CSW,
and you guys get there. You meet Hunter. You go around. You respect everybody, shake everybody's hand. Now we get to the part. Now it's time for you guys to have your match.
Yup.
So you go into the stage, and I run up and I say, "Hey, man, I'm a Christian people, so I pray all the time for all my students, and the ones that don't like me and the ones that love me." But I run up to them before these guys get ready to go out there. They're getting ready to announce that they're getting ready to come out and go to work. So I grabbed them and went up and said, hey, man, we got to say a prayer here before y'all go out to the ring.
Yes.
And so we all grabbed hands and said a good prayer, and you guys went out there. Tell me, when I did that, did you feel that the good Lord was with you?
Hey, man, when I did that, my head cleared. When my head's clear, I can make better decisions. When my head is clear, I can make better decisions. And, when I can hear my thoughts, that's when my creativity is expressed at its best.
Good.
Yeah.
And so then you went out there. You guys had a hell of a barn burning match. I was very, very, very freaking happy to see that you guys really showed out. This was a good tryout, folks, in front of some wrestling fans. It wasn't at the dojo. It was a legit tryout, and that's what you want when you go do shows. And then, of course, we'll move on down the line here. You did some stuff with Beyond Wrestling. You did. I got you. Guys hooked up with Reality of Wrestling with Booker T. Tell us about that.
Oh man, hey, look, Booker, dog. Let me tell you about Booker, man. He cool. Booker the kind of guy where he on eye contact interaction. You off rip, you could tell he the type of dude. You know what I'm saying? That recognizes real recognize real. Booker that kind of guy. Booker being at Booker's facility reminded me of the A4 a lot. You know, in a lot of ways. And after my match, you know, he would after all of our matches, he would critique us. You know what I mean? He would give us all sorts of advice. You know what I'm saying? He treated us nice.
Yeah.
He you know, buys hotels, but me and Ghost would turn it down and head right back. You know, we like, you know what? How about we just take that hotel money and just split it? But like, man, Booker, man, he made us feel like, you know, as performers, as workers, he made us feel like he made us realize like another level of like professional wrestling.
No doubt about it. Good buddy, friend of mine, will go way back.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, you moved on from there. And of course, you still go back and forth, of course, with Ring of Honor. I mean, Reality of Wrestling. Excuse me.
Amen.
And you did some stuff that would Beyond Wrestling, and you did a few other things with other companies pertaining to professional wrestling.
Yes,
and so we can be here all night because you did a lot of different companies. So between wrestling and life, what struggles between wrestling, real life, and professional wrestling as a work?
Oh man, I don't know how deep you want me to go into that, but it's definitely what I realized not too long ago is that, and I guess whoever's starting wrestling or wants to, like, your personal life is like, that's your core. If your core is weak, you can do good, you know what I'm saying, in the ring and whatnot. But if your core is weak and it collapse, all that's going to collapse with it. Because you got to stay paid, you got to eat, you got to stay warm, you got to stay out of trouble. But you got to stay out of trouble. And you got to remain consistent, you know. And I had a difficult time, like, balancing personal life and professional life. And for a long time, I didn't actually, you know, I was more ignorant to being professional and how to carry myself. And so, you know, I got into a couple of like spats, you know, and
good.
Yeah, but like eventually, you know, I met certain people, you know what I'm saying? I prayed more. Even you know, you talked a lot of sense to me at times. You don't even realize where I was most vulnerable.
Right.
And yeah, you know, I'm more calibrated now.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, good. I mean, you know, because life and struggles with it, professional wrestling, real life is a rough ride, no doubt about it.
Why wrestlers got to have the toughest challenges, boy.
Yeah,
but we ain't on them pain pills no more, boy. We
that's
all
what it
natural.
is. And so, I mean, you know,
through.
now, you know, you have a young child that came into the world. Her name's Logan. Tell us about that.
Take off, Logan, Gabrielle, Walker. You know where her name come from?
Where her name come from?
Mom used to resemble me to Wolverine, the X-Men character. Like my personality, because for a long time I'm still kind of like that, but I'm just laid back into myself and yada yada. But that's where she got that from. But the name means hollow with strength. And
Good.
then Walker. But
Great.
that's my dog though, you know.
Yeah, she's a great little girl.
Yeah,
chill off the old block, no doubt about it.
Dog.
Definitely spit that
Get
one
what
out.
she said to me yesterday.
What?
The other day. She said, we was in the car, right? Out of nowhere, she was like, you can be whatever you want. I said, huh?
Whatever
She
you
said,
want.
Yeah, she said, you can be whatever you want. She said, I can do whatever I want. I said, who told you that?
Yeah.
Where you get that wrong? Saying you can too, you know?
Yeah,
that's my dog, man.
That was sweet.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're starting to wind down towards the end of this freaking podcast, folks, and
Pew.
and so so as far as other shows you got coming up, tell
Yeah.
people about it real quick, and then we're gonna move down to because we got to make this fast here because we're running out of time.
All right.
How can people find you?
Okay, if you find me, Facebook, Chad Skywalker, Instagram, Chad Skywalker. If you have to, it's underscores between each of those words. Twitter, It's still Stitch Osiris 242, but you should find me on the Chad Skywalker. Shows I got coming up, you know, we got One Fall Wrestling, we got GPW, and we got IWE, we got Bushido, you know. So, you know, be on the lookout, be on my page, man. Don't be afraid to follow.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I tell you something, folks. Great to have Chad Skywalker with us here today. Great interview, folks. Hope you enjoy it. You know, don't forget to like and subscribe to Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast. Total Protection Mr. Hughes YouTube. My goodness. And of course, we got the ATLien. AT, how can folks reach you, man?
I am DEATLien on all social media platforms, and I am also booked on One Fall and on GPW with Stitch Osiris. Chad
Skywalker.
Also, too, folks, Total Protection Mr. Hughes here. You can find me on Facebook, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Curtis Hughes, and then Total Protection Mr. Hughes. And then don't forget the Total Protection Mr. Hughes YouTube page. That's Total Protection, one word, Mr. Hughes, folks. Like and subscribe, no doubt about it. Appreciate you listening. Folks, we're going to see you next time here, live from the Total Protection Mr. Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Take off.
Mr. Hughes Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.